evening, everybody. Jeff Kolcon from Junior Hockey Advisor. Oh boy, we got a great show tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to take on some of the big myths in hockey, and we're going to analyze them and take them down one at a time. We're going to take on the myth that there's just too much AAA hockey. Okay, it's out there. Somebody said it. More than one said it. They emailed me questions about it. They put comments on our board. All right, we'll take it on. We'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can find out about AAA hockey. Is there really too much AAA hockey? Is it out of control in the growth of AAA hockey, or is it just a myth? Let's take a look at the numbers. We're going to take a look at junior hockey. Is junior hockey out of control? Is there a Tier 3 team starting up every week, and they're all money grabs, and they're all over the place, and nobody's got it under control? We'll take a look at that too. Is there some truth to it? Maybe. We'll find out before the end of the night. Let's jump right into the first topic. It's right there. Right there. Too many AAA teams. That's what the word is. The word is, hey, there's way too many AAA teams. You know, you got parents out there, oh my gosh, if it's not politics, it's because there's too many teams. Well, let's break this down a little bit. Let's look at it. Tampa Bay, thanks for coming on. Philadelphia, Minnesota, holy Redondo Beach. Don't you got better things to do right now out there in Redondo? It seems like I'd be on a sailboat right now if I were out there. But let's get into AAA hockey. All right, I'm going to walk through this. First of all, we have to realize that U15 Tier 1 is a fairly new addition. It's only been around for 4 or 5 years, meaning at the Tier 1 level, they took 16s and they split it in two. So you can have a pure U15 team. It can't be U15 and U16. It can't be U14. It's got to be pure U15 guys. Now, once you get the U15, when you move up to 16s, that can be a mixed team. That can be 15s and 16s. But if you're going to play 15s, it's right across the board. Now, those numbers have slowed. 5 years ago, there was only 30 teams that did that. And we'll cover those numbers. And then 4 years ago, I think it was like 80, and we'll get into that. But we got to keep that in mind as we go through. Hello, Ottawa. Hello, Crown Point. And Baltimore. Philly again. We got a lot of nice, the old teammate from Men's League and from playing in Orlando, Florida. Actually, playing in Daytona, Florida. Mark Reamer's on. Good to see you, Mark. And let's go. 15, 16 Tier 1. And we're going to talk about 16 Tier 2. Now, first of all, we're gonna compare, first of all, 15 Tier 1 and 16 Tier 1, just to look at those numbers. Let's look at this graph first. Then we're going to get into the 16s. Okay, now, blue is U15 over the last 4 years. The lighter blue, whatever that color is, teal, aqua, that is your U16 Tier 1. And the first thing I want to show you is, 4 years ago in 2017, there was 147 U16 teams. This year there was 145. Now, there were 80 U15 teams. I told you that number was building up. The year before that there was 30, and it's pretty consistent now, 112, 113, 120. It's going to fluctuate in right there because it's still a new model. It's still growing. Even USA Hockey doesn't have their arms around exactly how U15 is going to flush out. And is this going to be something that happens at U18 too? Does it become like the national program, the national development program, where there's a U17 team and a U18 team? Maybe we see that too. But right now we have U15 and U16. So looking at that number, just keep that in mind as we move on here. I combined those two numbers. Those two numbers are the low numbers, the 227, 260, 264. So go back, those numbers there, I took those numbers and combined them together. I added those numbers together. So 2017, I added those two columns. 2018, added those columns. Now we're going to compare that to Tier 2 U16. Now, U16 Tier 2 does not break into U15, 16. It's just a pure number of kids that are eligible at 15 and 16 combined. Let's look at that number. Oh boy. So look at the AAA, Tier 1, 227, 260, 264, 265. I don't know if you can get more flatter than that, okay? Pretty much for 3 years, zero growth, AAA, U16. That's the hotbed area, 15s and 16s combined. That is the hotbed of Tier 1 hockey right there. But look at the Tier 2 number. From 579 to 671, we've almost added 100 Tier 2 teams. Now, is it AAA that's out of control, or is it AA that's out of control? Now, my contention would be, and for over 12 years, I was the president of one of the Rochester Youth Hockey, 700 families, 750 families, right in there. My view of this is that Tier 2 has been out of control now for a decade and a half, meaning every time we hired a very good, competent, just a really informed house director, within 3 to 4 years, he was vying for or becoming the Tier 2 director because the pressure from his parents where they wanted to move up into Tier 2, they wanted to play AA. And in our area, this is Western New York, I can't speak for everybody, but I think this is a pretty good statement across the board. You get situations where house no longer is self-contained in one building. It used to be that your house program, if you're a single, double, quad rink, whatever, all your house programs would play. 20 years ago in Rochester, there used to be house programs that would have 20, 30, 40 teams at each level. The squirt program in house, they'd all play out of the same building. It was stacked up on the weekend for games with just house games, and then your travel played after that for the most part. Now, you don't see that anymore because house has become a quasi-travel situation where to get house games, the house programs jump from town to town and move from area to area. So, for example, in Rochester, our house programs play in Geneseo, Batavia, they play in Geneva, they play in Canandaigua, they play everywhere. And then they play in the greater Rochester area also. So you're playing house, you could be on the road every weekend, 30 minutes, 45 minutes away from your house for the whole winter, depending on how your schedule works. So I just want to show this graph and say, holy smokes, when everybody keeps telling me that AAA is growing and it's out of control, well, take a look. What's out of control? AAA or AA? You can take the numbers and run with them any way you want, but let's keep going. Let's keep going. So let's just take that one right off the list. 15 and 16 Tier 1 aren't out of control, but 16 Tier 2, check mark. That's where we got a problem. It's not a problem. Hey, God bless people for wanting to play. There's no issues with growth in that area, but let's just not blame it on one side because it's the haves, have-nots. It's always politically correct to say that the AAA has all the money, has all the politics, and has all the teams. It's out of control. Well, all right, we may not be so accurate on that. All right, let's look at U18. U18 hockey is watered down. Okay, U18 hockey is watered down. I hear this more than not. Every time we talk junior hockey and we talk about commitments and we talk about U16 hockey, everybody goes, well, it's because U18 is watered down. It's because U18 is not what it used to be. Okay, well, let's go through the numbers. Maybe you're right. We'll see. All right, this is U18 2017 through 2020. In the tan box, the gold boxes, those numbers are your Tier 1. Your Tier 2 is your AA. Your orange box is your Tier 2 or your AA. So if you're looking at this right now and see this, you can see, okay, moderate growth from 2017 to 2020 on the Tier 1 side, but actually, for the last 2 or 3 years, it's actually flattered down. Now, once again, the growth seems to be on the Tier 2 side, and the growth seems to be 388 in 2017 to 398. Now, once again, I'm doing U.S. numbers. I see some Canada coming on, Ottawa. Thanks for coming on. I did put a little bit of Canadian spin on this later on in the show, but right now I'm just focusing mostly on just the American numbers. But the point can be taken across the board on how people view this and how they look at things. Let's dig into this a little more. This is coming straight off of the elite prospects, and this is the current commitments. And this is hard to read. Don't worry about reading it. This is just some current names, and I want you to look at the right column. These kids are going to the AJHL, the BCHL. This is U18 players. They're going to the NCDC, the BCHL, the North American Hockey League, the BCHL, the North American Hockey League, the AJHL. That's where these players are going. The Tier 1 players are getting good looks right now. You don't believe me? Let's go a little deeper. All right, now, here's your U18 Tier 1 leagues. Now, before everybody attacks and says, oh, there's a ton more leagues than this. Okay, there are. But Tier 1 Elite is the crown jewel. High Performance Hockey League is by far the most potent with only 8 teams as far as their commitments and what they get done. But I threw the NAPHL on here because they're big, And I threw the PHL on here because the USPHL throws a lot of numbers around. I want to make sure that you get an accurate picture here. So you in the blue, you see the name of the league. The next column over, you see how many teams they have in that league. Then you see how many players played in the league that are currently in junior hockey right now. For example, Tier 1 Elite has 378 players in junior hockey right now that played U18, not U16, 18 combined, that played at least 10 games of U18 hockey. The HPHL, only 8 teams, 152 players are playing junior hockey right now. When I say junior hockey, though, I'm not saying all junior hockey. I'm going to make this very clear. USHL, BCHL, North American Hockey League, and the NCDC. That's the only 4 leagues that I used here. So this isn't watered down with a very remote team somewhere up in the tippy top of Michigan or in Saskatchewan somewhere playing in a junior D league. No, these are the big boys with the NCDC thrown in there once again because I want to show numbers. A lot of things are talked about. Just on an aside, this last week, this came up on the website or on the chat group. Somebody was talking about numbers, and they were talking about how great one league was doing in numbers. Folks, the last place you should go to get numbers on how great a league is on the league website. It doesn't work. Everything is skewed. I don't care what league you're talking about. I actually looked at one league, which was the NCDC, the USPHL, and just tore their 300 commitment list apart. And they've got players that are 99s being counted in this year, which are 98s being counted in the list. And there are players that had 4 games playing on a U16 team. Those don't count, folks. Those don't count. If you want real information, go back and watch some of the videos I've done in the past. You can get them on YouTube or you can get them on the juniorhockeyadvisor.com. But please don't trust anything you're seeing on any junior website because they have a slant on it. They have a skew on it. It doesn't matter if it's the North American Hockey League or if it's the AJHL or CCHL or if it's the NCDC. They're going to spin it their way, and it's not always going to be accurate. Let's just put it that way. So getting back to this, that ratio number on the far side means for every team in the Tier 1 Elite, they have 21 players in junior hockey right now in those 4 leagues. Now, what's important about that is you can say, well, how do they have 21? Well, we're talking about, you can be in junior hockey for 2, 3, 4 years. So a U18 player comes out after 1 year of U18, he can play 3 years of junior. So you got a combined 3 years of numbers there. So it can accumulate over a roster size for a Tier 1 Elite League. But HPHL, look at that number, 8 teams. They've got, for every team in the HPHL, for every team, there's 19 players that are in junior hockey. But now go back down to the NAPHL and the USPHL. This gives you, when I keep saying where you play matters, I say this every single show. This should help you a little bit on where you play and why it matters. When everybody says Tier 1 18 hockey doesn't work, look at the total combined players there. We're talking about huge numbers. Let's just move on and let's make it a little bit different here. Okay, this is the league. And now that first column, the green column, is Tier 1 U18 experience. Look at each league, and I broke it down so you can see how many Tier 1 elite players are in each league. So the USHL, 49 guys came out of Tier 1 elite U18. Now, once again, everybody says, oh, U18 is watered down. So there's 49 guys in the USHL. There's 218 guys in the North American Hockey League. 34 guys in the BCHL. Now, the BCHL only has 125, 150 Americans. So a large chunk of these players are not the 16s. They're not prep. They're not coming from other junior programs. They're coming from Tier 1 Elite. So, right there, I can't tell you more than that. There's 378 players coming from that league that have played at that level. So now, HPHL, U18. Look at the numbers, folks. They only have 8 teams, but they've got 17 kids in the USHL. They have 87 kids in the North American Hockey League. Heck, the HPHL's got 6 kids in the BCHL, and they've got 42 in the NCDC. Those are incredible numbers. 152 kids on only 8 teams. The numbers are still good in the NAPHL, and the numbers are still good in the USPHL. Now, the North American Hockey League, you expect to take a lot of the NAPHL kids. But a couple things I want to point out to you on that purple column on the far right, the USPHL U18. If you take away Northwood Prep And if you take away Selects Academy, the numbers in the USHL and the BCHL drop to 0. Okay, maybe 1. I think there might be 1. So USPHL is not getting a lot of looks into the USHL and the BCHL. Just they're coming from the Selects Academy and they're coming from Northwood. So if you take those two out of the mix, USPHL numbers look a lot different than the way they are now. But I think it's very curious, though, that the NCDC, if you follow them across the board, they take players from every other league more than their own league. Yes, I know they only have 15 teams in the NCDC, and yes, I know the USPHL doesn't have a lot of U18 teams comparatively. They're not as big as the North American, the NAPHL, but still, I think that says a lot about the league, and maybe there should be more of an emphasis put on really promoting your own players and pushing your own players up through the ranks. Now, you could say the same thing about the NAHL, except for in most cases, the NAHL, you would expect their numbers to be better than what they keep in their league, to be better than the USHL, because the USHL is Tier 1, they're Tier 2. But I think they're doing pretty good. I think that their spread is pretty decent, and they across the board, the BCHL, I'm just impressed that across the board there's 60, 70, 75 kids coming out of U18 hockey that are playing in the BCHL. That's awesome. But look at those numbers, folks. Look at the very bottom and look at the total amount of teams. There's 75 teams in those 4 leagues that are junior teams. And just look at the incredible number of players that are U18 players. Now tell me again that U18 is not a viable option. Tell me again that you cannot progress through U18. It's watered down. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. It might be there, but I'm not seeing it at all. I didn't get into the EHL. I wished I could have. I see your comment about the EHL. The only reason I didn't is I wanted to kind of stick to 3 or 4. I probably went to, putting the NCDC on there probably wasn't the best bet, because after seeing how they were doing things on their commitment list, I wasn't happy. So I kind of probably took a little bias on that. Now remember, I'm not too biased on them. I actually own 2 teams in the NCDC and the USPHL. I've always been very positive and proactive towards that league. I think there's some great people there, but just in this one situation, I was not happy on the way they're handling it. New Jersey Avalanche is a great program across the board, and as you know, they've moved to different leagues in the last 2 years here, but the New Jersey Avalanche does a good job. There's no other way to put it. So if we just keep moving on, U18 hockey's watered down. Scratch that off the list. Scratch it off the list. Okay, if that's not enough food or some fodder for you when you go into your next argument, when you're having that cup of hot chocolate and you're waiting for the game to start and everybody's sitting around in a circle and that one guy goes, my kid's not playing U18, that's all watered down. Or why even worry about playing U18? It's all watered down hockey. Okay, that's where you share the video. That's where you get them involved in this. Turn that smile or turn that frown upside down. Let's get them involved. Let's make them happy here and show them the real news. So take that information and run with it. All right, junior hockey's out of control. This has been going on for 20 years. I've heard this said. Unfortunately, I can't take the time. Now, I did, just so you know, I did break down numbers for USA Hockey and the USA Hockey Growth, and I did that all the way back into I went all the way back to 2000 on USA Hockey's growth when I was putting this together, but I decided I'm going to leave USA Hockey growth numbers for another show. I'm just going to focus on junior hockey, and I'm going to look at the last 5 years. It doesn't matter what happened 10 years ago. It doesn't matter what happened 15 years ago. It doesn't matter what happened back when I had to walk, barefoot to school. That doesn't matter. What matters is what's going on right now. Let's look at the last few years. Let's see if there's some trends. Let's see what's really going on with junior hockey. All right, we're going to start with U.S. and this Canada. I told you you're coming in right next after this. Your level on the far left, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. You've got it going in backwards order, descending from this year and moving backwards. Tier 1, we lost a team last year, but 16, 17 teams, extremely consistent across the board. Tier 2, 39 up from 22. But remember, I had to count the NCDC as Tier 2. And the reason I did that is because they really didn't fall in any other place. They're self-proclaimed Tier 2, so I counted them in with the Tier 2 numbers. Otherwise, that number is around 27, I believe, this year, the North American Hockey League. So if you're looking just at USA Hockey, registered Tier 2 teams, it's gone from 22 to 27. But look at that Tier 3 number, the third column down. Tier 3, we're currently at 134. So even if you put the 12 teams from the NCDC back in that number, that makes it 146. Look where it was 5 years ago. It was at 165. So the green on the right shows you 15-16, there were 204 American junior teams. In 1920, there's 189. Where's this out of control growth? And if you don't think we're going to lose some in the pandemic, I don't believe that we're going to see 100% control of our teams. Now, we already saw, we might see some loss already with the WSHL. Those numbers aren't in this right now, okay? But just look at across the board. Now, if you're looking at these numbers and think that these numbers are skewed, it's skewed towards the numbers going down. Let's look at Canada. Okay, in 15-16, 295 teams. In 19-20, this is Junior A and Junior B. So the A is your CJHL and your Junior B are your other programs out there. 295 to 264. I think the trend's going down on these numbers. I'm not seeing this out of control expansion across the board. If anything, there's some great small town Canadian programs that have gone by the wayside. We're not talking about those programs that are kind of the outlaw programs that come and go. But I'm talking about quality programs and quality towns. The AJHL just lost one this year. They lost one of their teams that was playing in, they were playing in Calgary. They lost the Calgary team this year. I don't know if they shelved them for a year, if they're gone for good. But, that's a great hockey market. Probably too big of a city and an NHL city. It's hard to play AJHL hockey there and get a fan base. But still, quality teams in the AJHL, you hate to see any of those teams go by the wayside. But once again, I'm looking at these numbers and I'm going, okay, show me this out of control growth. Show me where AAA is out of control. Show me where junior hockey is out of control. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it at all. The numbers just don't support the statements. So let's put 4 red lines through that one. Junior hockey out of control just isn't there. Just isn't there across the board. So we took on 3 things. AAA hockey, out of control, growing too fast. The numbers are crazy. There's a AAA team starting up all the time. If you can't make AAA, just go start your own program. The numbers aren't there to support that statement. U18 is watered down. Numbers aren't there to support that statement. Junior hockey is growing out of control. Once again, especially at the Tier 3 level, the numbers aren't there to support that statement. So I hope this helped a little bit. I know we had a lot of things to talk about. I'm not going to go into mailbag. I didn't see any real big questions coming across the board except for Vincenzo threw the question up about the New Jersey Avalanche. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to make that the night. I mean, I didn't really have much more besides that, but I was potent about that. I really wanted to get into that tonight. I hope it came across passionate about these numbers because I don't like when our sport gets tainted to make it look like, oh, if you can't make a AAA team, you just go start one. Okay, does that ever happen? Of course it's happened. Okay, does it happen all the time? No. Okay, so the question just came in, what about junior programs with 3 to 4 levels? Okay, so 3 to 4 levels would mean NCDC, Premier, Elite, okay? Remember, Premier and Elite are considered Tier 3, and NCDC is considered Tier 2. So once again, you might see some migration from city to city on those programs, especially inside the USPHL model. But the USPHL model, really their growth came from acquiring pre-existing teams in the West and the Midwest and the Southwest. First they went to the South. That happened even back with the EJHL days before the USPHL model started. There was the EJHL South. That became part of the USPHL model that picked up all the teams in Florida, up the coast of Hamptons and the Washington, D.C. area. So you're not really seeing these new programs jumping out. Now they might trade owners once in a while. They might trade and shift around, but the growth is just from teams that used to be independent. They used to play in a league that doesn't exist anymore in Minnesota or Michigan, or for example, the programs that just came in from the Western States Hockey League, they come over too. So the growth in that league has all been from acquiring existing franchises. no real new growth is coming out of that program, just acquisition. So once again, there's no slight. There's some great elite programs. There's some great premier programs. There's some great NCDC programs. More concerned about letting you know that, it's not out of control in the growth. The growth is just not, exploding. It might seem like your area gets a new team depending on where you're at, but it's only being moved, or it's being shifted, or it's one team, one franchise shut down and it moved to another area. So let's see, got a couple of other questions coming in. Many college commits going back to juniors because of maybe no college season. So I guess that question is, are there many? We saw a couple come back in the USHL draft. We saw one come back in the North American Hockey League draft that came back from college to play out. It's kind of hard because you've got a short window there. You really have to leave juniors with eligibility for juniors ahead of time. So, for example, a 2000 can't do that now. A 2001 can't do that now because he goes and plays, comes back. So it would have to be a 2002 or a 2003 leaving early this season. Last year it'd have to be an 01 or an 02 leaving to come back now so they could play out as an 01. No, so far no, but that doesn't mean that things don't change come the fall. Okay, it doesn't mean that you don't see it come in the fall. But remember, you can only play through. You have to be 20 years old before January 1st of the year you're playing. So if you're 21 already, or you're going to turn 21 in the fall, you're not eligible to play juniors. So it's not available. So that right there precludes so many of the players that are at that level, because most of the freshmen are coming in. Remember, the vast majority, 70% plus of the freshmen coming into college are already aging out of juniors. So you're only talking about 30% of the kids that could actually take advantage of that. And that's both, that's just at Division I. Division III, last year there was no underagers that came. Everybody aged out that went into to NCAA Division III college hockey last year, which is a very unique situation. Next question is, there are a bunch, I was scouting a Tier 3 tryout this last weekend, and there are a bunch of college players there because their college teams have already canceled the season. That's true. That's where you're probably going to see something happen. The kids that have eligibility in the leagues that have said we're not playing, that could happen. But we've only seen a couple of leagues, East Coast leagues, I believe only Division III so far, that have said that's it, we're not playing. We've seen a couple of schools that are in overall conferences for all sports that have delayed things until January 1st. So we're keeping tabs on that. If there's any news that comes out on that, first of all, if it's really good news, I'll put it out right away. If it's something can wait till Sunday, I'll be glad to share that with you on Sunday. But the bottom line is, you can be very, very correct on your assumption there that these players are going to come back. If you're eligible and you can come back, why wouldn't you? I mean, if I could go back and play versus not playing in college and keep my skills up and take some online courses, yeah, sure, why not? So options for 19 and under players in the Carolinas for Tier 3. Not really sure. Options for U19 and under. Okay, if that's a statement, yeah, it looks like somebody's saying he's got options available for there. That's great. Probably other places to advertise for players really don't look forward to that on the show. But if you're looking for a place to play, there's some options there. There's usually, there's some great options up and down the coast there, all the way from Florida all the way up. But remember, there's over 200 plus professionals, and there's a lot of USPHL owners, coaches, and general managers on the show. So I really don't try to take sides on telling you which programs to go to, because there's so many of them would jump down my throat if I did that. So I got to kind of stay neutral on that. So with that said, is there anything else going on out there? I thank you all for watching, unless I see some other questions come across. What do you think? Did we cover this good tonight? Did you get what you want? There you go, Ken. Jump in there and get a spot. If they're looking for a goalie, maybe we do a love connection here. Anybody, give me some feedback. Let me know if we covered some things that you learned something on. You can do it after the show's over too. Just want to know if we're actually hitting the button on some of the things you're looking for when you're going through this process. Remember, we got a couple things coming up. We've got an 8-page, 9-page document. It's in our legal department, which is up in that room right now, which is my wife. She's figuring out exactly what we can do to get this document out to you. We'll get that document out, and that document is, all the steps and all the things you should be doing on a checklist if you're going to hire a family advisor. Remember, I'm not a family advisor. I talk about the process. What I do for a living is this. I do this all day long. I'm spending a lot of time on my with coaching calls where people call up and we spend some time doing consults, spend an hour talking about that. And the other thing I do is webinars, all on the hockey process and the educational process. So really don't want to plug it right now, because if I plug this, I can't put this on some of the other Facebook groups and Facebook pages. So I try not to plug. I try to keep it pretty right down the middle as far as information goes, so I can stay legit for those other sites. All right, looks like everybody's got their questions in, and have a great night. Hope all your hockey dreams are coming true this week. For all of you that are in camps this week, your main camps, good luck, work hard. I know that there's some great hockey going on out there right now. I know one junior program had 14 teams in maiden camp. I don't know if I've seen more than that. I've seen, usually 8, I've seen 10 before, but 14 teams, that's a lot of teams. So a lot of kids are getting opportunities this week to go out and show themselves in the camps. Once again, that's it. Take care, folks. Have a great night.